Welcome to Youth Voices of Greater Cincinnati. My name is Lily Earhart, and today we're here with Miles Berling.
Thank you for having me, Lily. It's a pleasure to be here.
But before you became a math teacher, did you have anything else that you thought you were going to do or be?
Actually, teaching is a second career for me. I don't know how much you know about this. So I was in the business world for over 20 years, and then one day I decided to make a big career change, and my wife was good with it. So I made the switch into education because I always thought I would like being a teacher. So I did that about 12 years ago is when I went back to school to become a teacher, and took a couple years to complete my education for that, and I've been teaching. This is my 10th year now in Norwood City Schools, and the whole time has been at Norwood View Elementary in 5th and now 5th and 6th grade.
Do you enjoy what you do?
Yeah, probably almost every day I enjoy what I do. There's a lot of challenges. Like with any job, there are days when it doesn't go as well as you'd like, or there's things that happen. But for the most part, it's very rewarding.
What school did you go to?
For college or for when I was a little kid?
College.
College. I have a degree. I have degrees mainly from University of Cincinnati and from Xavier University. My undergrad was at University of Cincinnati in accounting and finance, and that was in my prior life. And then I got my MBA from Xavier University. And then when I went back to school for education, I went to UC and got my certificate in education, but I also got specifically a master's degree in curriculum and instruction at UC. So a lot of education to become a teacher.
Do you work with teachers that you don't get along with?
Well, in life, you're always going to have people you click with and people you don't click with. And sure, there's some people who it might not be as enjoyable to work with. Just like in your life, I'm sure there's kids you immediately have as friends and those you don't. But for the most part, everyone is pretty good to work with. And the group I'm with, I'm very fortunate. The team I work on, we all get along really well. So that makes a big difference to make the job enjoyable.
What are easy ways that you find to teach your students something?
I don't know if the audience knows, but you were one of my former students. I try to relate to the kids. I like to get to know them on a personal level and ask them a lot of questions, not in a nosy way, but just to get to know them, what they like, what they don't like, what their families like, brothers, sisters, which I think helps me with teaching, because if they're more connected to me and I'm more connected to them, they're more likely to care about what we're trying to do. But I also, even though I think I'm serious about the kids learning, I think I try to make it fun and kid around and joke with them, as hopefully you remember I would do with you a little bit.
How do you deal with difficult children?
That's difficult. That's a good question. It's a challenge, and like I was mentioning, I try to get to know them and reach them on whatever level I can. And a lot of kids you can, but there's always a couple kids that for whatever reason they don't want to be reached at that time. So you try everything you can. You work with the parents, you work with the administration for support, but sometimes you have to realize now might not be the time that child is ready to be reached. So you can't be successful 100% of the time, but you can try 100% of the time.
What motivated you to become a math teacher?
It wasn't so much the subject, but I had always enjoyed teaching or working with kids, and I remember coaching when my kids were younger, and I enjoyed that. And I just felt, excuse me, I felt it was something that I would really enjoy, working with kids on a daily basis. and getting to know them and trying to help them reach their goals. So it wasn't so much that it was math, it was more that teaching, working with kids. And because of my background was accounting and finance, which is heavy into math. So I know, a decent amount about math, and I know why it's important for kids to learn. So my other love is also social studies, which is I try to teach as much as possible. That's one subject we're supposed to teach also with it, and I love social studies. So I'm fortunate that two areas I really am passionate about, I get to teach.
What's a daily routine for you?
I get up early. You might not want to know all this, but I get up early. I'm an early riser. So I get up early, get ready. I get into school really early. I'm one of the first ones in every day. I just like to make sure I got everything prepared that morning to go. And then I try and plan my day so that each class, because the classes, they used to be 90 minutes with you. This year they're only an hour long. So in particular, when they were 90 minutes, I would try and break them up into, like at least 30-minute segments so the kids would not get too bored. So I would try and have them do something for this period of time and then switch it up so that, hopefully to keep their interest, and then move to a different, subject or a different topic or a different way of looking at it, and then finish up with something else at a different time. And I also like to try and leave some time for interaction where I can help the kids who might need a little extra help, while the other kids who don't need as much help can be working on their own. So and then I usually stay a little bit after every day to try and make sure that I'm all ready for the next day, just so that I'm prepared to go.
How many grades can you teach?
I'm certified for 4 through 9, and the state of Ohio is constantly changing. So if you're thinking of education, you got to keep this in mind. They're always changing the rules, and when I got my certificate or license, it was 4 through 9. They called it middle childhood. But it was kind of misleading because the 9th grade, not many high schools would hire you to teach 9th grade. They preferred secondary education, so you're kind of limited 4 through 8. So that was a little bit limiting. And so I am certified in. When I got my license, you had to pick 2 different subjects. So I picked social studies and math. And a lot of the people who are teaching, who've been teaching longer than me, are certified, I think, 1 through 8 in any subject. So things have changed a lot since, before I got in, they, with their certifications. So it was kind of interesting. And from what I understand, I don't know this for a fact, I think it's changed again since I've got into teaching. So it's always constantly changing, the rules.
Have you noticed from your childhood and now that the math is different?
They're teaching it different, and I don't know if I'm such a big fan of how they do it now. They touch on they try and touch on a little bit of everything, and I don't think it gives you enough time to go deep enough for a particular subject. Like back in my day, which was a long time ago, we would do so many division or multiplication problems, it wasn't funny. But you really understood it, and you started to develop your strategies in understanding math. And now, after a couple weeks, you're on to something else. I mean, they introduce geometry now, which not real difficult geometry, but we didn't have geometry introduced to us till probably 9th grade. Some of the material in 9th grade was real easy and was easy to pick up, but doing that now in the earlier grades keeps you from going in deeper and really learning how to divide, really learning how to multiply, and developing math sense. So that's my opinion on that.
When you teach kids, let's say some of them, it clicks for them right away.
Right.
But what do you do if for other students it's just not clicking?
Well, that always happens. And what's interesting is some kids, even if they're good at math, there is bound to be something where it doesn't click and it takes a little bit longer. So You just have to work with them a little bit more and give them a little bit more time. And that's why I always try and leave some time in every class where I can go around and help the kids who are struggling to try and figure out what they're doing. And that's why we math teachers insist upon seeing how you did it, so we can diagnose what mistake you're making. And the kids usually don't like that because they think you're being a pain to them. But I want to see your work so that I can figure out, oh, here's the mistake you're making. And then it's usually easy. Once you diagnose it, it's usually easier to fix. And the kids then are like, oh yeah, oh, now I got it. But that's why math teachers aren't out to make your life miserable. We're there to try and help you. That's why we want to see your work.
So while you were in college, did you live close to your family, or?
Well, when I was first in college, way back when, yeah, I lived, because I went to the University of Cincinnati for my undergrads, and I lived at home. Everyone now seems to like to live there or go away to school, but I lived at home. It never really was an option. It was just assumed I was going to go to UC because by living at home, I saved a lot of money and I worked a lot also while I was in school, which I don't advise because I was working probably 30 hours a week trying to also go to school for full time. So it was very difficult. But yeah, I lived at home and didn't get to experience college life like a lot of people get to experience. But it is what it is, and I can't complain about it.
So you teach 5th and 6th.
Right.
Which group of kids do you find easier for them to teach math?
The way it's structured now, I would say 6th grade is easier because the change in the curriculum from 4th to 5th grade, I think, is a bigger jump than from 5th to 6th. And obviously the kids are a year older in 6th grade, so they're a little bit more mature mentally and physically and emotionally. So I find them not struggling as much with 6th grade material as I found the kids going from 4th to 5th. Because 5th grade, I don't know if you remember, you're not allowed to use a calculator.
Yeah.
And in 6th grade, you're allowed to use a calculator, which takes a lot of stress off on, doing some of the calculations. But yeah, I find 5th grade much more challenging for the kids than 6th grade.
Do you work with the other math teachers, like on the different things?
Yeah, the way Norwood is structured, we have 3 elementary schools, and so I'm the only 5th grade math teacher like at Norwood View Elementary. So the only ones you can talk to are like the 4th grade teacher or the 6th grade teacher, but we do get together a few times a year and can discuss with the teachers at Sharpsburg and Williams Elementary to find out how they're doing and what they're doing, what they're finding works or what doesn't work.
Do you find that some of the other math teachers teach the same as you or similar?
Well, everyone has their own personality and how they approach things. I don't know if you remember, did I used to have like Time Test Tuesday with you? Where like every Tuesday we would have time tests? I think I did with you. You must not remember. I don't know if the other ones do that, but I'm a big believer in knowing your facts. So that's something I like to pound into the kids because you got to know your facts. You don't want to be embarrassed your first day on your first job at 16 years old, and you can't multiply 7 times 6. You don't want to whip out your cell phone and do it real quick. So I believe you really need to know your facts, and I don't know if the other two emphasize it as much as I do. So that might be one of the differences between us.
What do you love, like in math? What's the favorite thing you love about it?
It's logical. And when you're younger, like I had you probably didn't realize how logical it is, but it's all patterns and logic. And, and believe it or not, math greatly explains the universe. It really does. Everything is logical and in place and makes sense. And So I really like that about it, that, it just, we don't have to argue about philosophy or anything like that. So I do enjoy that part of it.
So I hear a lot of math teachers say, you'll use this when you grow up.
Right.
Will they use all of it, or?
That's a good question, because I just read read an article yesterday or the day before saying how some math teachers think Algebra 2 should be dropped because people do not use Algebra 2, but they need to replace that with more stats, understanding statistics, because a lot of decisions, not just in the business world, but which controls things, is statistical based. What's the probability of this happening? And people need to understand that more than trigonometry and Algebra 2. So that's a really interesting question, because a lot of people think, why are we having it? Drop Algebra 2 and replace it with more statistical and probability. So, because that really is starting to run everything. Big data, understanding big data. I don't know how much you've heard, probably not a whole lot at your age, but big data is where it's all out. That's what all the big companies are using, is they, like Amazon and Kroger. Kroger, does your mom have a Kroger Plus card? She scans that, and they track everything of her purchases. So they know what she likes to buy, how often she likes to buy it. They know, obviously, she's female. They probably know where she lives, and they can take all that data and send her specialized coupons. That's all crunching that data, which is statistics and what have you, and analyzing it. And it's not Algebra 2, it's stats. So that's really where it's at.
How did you decide what grade you were going to teach?
Actually, well, when I went back to school, I visited a number of schools in the area to try and figure out which school, first of all, I should go to and how long it would take. And it would have taken a year. This is not a good reason to do what I did, and I admit that now, but I was in a hurry to get into education because of my age. But it would have taken me a year longer to teach high school than for me to teach middle school. So that's basically why I made that decision that I did. So not a good reason to make that choice, but I have to be honest with you.
Do you have any questions for me?
How did you like being in my classroom? I'm going to put you on the spot. How did you like my classroom?
It
You can be honest.
wasn't bad, but it wasn't like the best year for me.
Was that because of my class or because of fifth grade or other things going on
I
in
think
your
it was
life?
just because other things were going on.
Yeah.
Like when you used to do the number thing, like how are you feeling, 1 to 10?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that.
0 a lot.
Yes, you did. But that
Yeah.
was good for me to know. Do you want to explain that, what that was?
Like if you're happy or if you're just having a good day, like how your day was going,
Right.
it'd be like 10 or 8 or something, But if you just weren't having a good day,
Right.
or something was off, it'd be lower.
Sure. Well, the reason why I did that is I wanted kids to share, first of all, so I would know how you're doing. Because if you're low, I would want to know that to see, is there anything I can do for you? I wasn't trying to be nosy, but just to be there to see what I can do to help. And everyone has a bad day. So if once a month you're 1 or 2 or 3, I'm not too worried. But if you're frequently having a bad day, then I'm more concerned. And I also wanted to do that so the other students could hear, hey, my friend over there is having a bad day. Maybe I can do something to help them have a better day. So that's why I did that. I liked doing that just to find out where everyone was, and so I could know and the other kids could know, and it was a way of sharing. And I never asked why you were having a bad day, did I?
Yeah, no.
Right, because I wanted to keep that personal, so not, especially I didn't want you to have to share that with the class, like, whatever. My parents had a fight last night or something. I didn't want that to come out. I just want to know your numbers. So, yeah. Anything else you remember about my class?
Do you still measure kids?
Yes.
What?
But the kids love that, don't they?
But you never remember to measure us at the end of the year.
Yes, I do.
You didn't measure us.
Are you sure?
Yes.
I thought I did. Because I measure kids the first day of school, and then I thought I did.
You forgot
Then
to
I
measure.
then I try to measure them the last day of school to
Yeah.
see how big they've gotten. What I always say, to see how big trouble's gotten there. How's middle school?
It's good.
You good? Because I hear middle school can be tough. You've adapted well?
I mean, 7th grade wasn't too good, but 8th grade's actually really good.
Good. Have you made good friends?
Yeah.
Because that's what it's all about. You got to be careful about who you make friends with.
Yeah.
Good.
That was Youth Voices of Greater Cincinnati. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.